Hello, this is Justin from Sleepy Developer Tutorials. This is the final video of a four-part series about setting up local Alexa skills debugging. In our final step, we will configure our debugging environment. In Visual Studio, click on the bug icon. This is our first time debugging, so we will have to set up the launch JSON. You'll see a red dot above the gear here. If we click this, this will automatically set up the configuration for us. If you remember in step 1, we downloaded the Sleepy Developers tutorial repository to our desktop, and so that includes the launch.json already set up for us. So we can just copy that. So we'll copy the file over, and that's located on the desktop. Tutorials, master, Alexa, skills. And that's in local development, and it's located in VS Code launch.json, and we're going to copy that into our VS Code, and we're going to override launch.json. And just a quick note, when we created this folder, or sorry, when we clicked the gear, it created this launch.json file, and it added this VS Code folder. So we're going to overwrite the data. So run our command. You'll see here that it's already done and updated. It's copied over. It's overwritten. I'll go over what's going on in our launch.json in just a second, but first I want to actually debug the code. So we'll go over here now to our index.js, and we'll add a breakpoint. I'm going to go to the handlers and then get fact, and I'm going to add a breakpoint right here on line 101. And so now at this point we should be able to debug. I'm going to go click here to the debug console. I click on debug here and click the green play button. And this should now debug. We'll stop at our breakpoint. There we go. We've hit our breakpoint. You can see our fact index is number 4. We click the next button. Our random fact is Earth is the only planet not named after a god. You can see, we've got all our local, we've got our watch, you can add stuff to it. This is a very powerful debugging tool. So let's just say we're done debugging. We can now click on the continue button, and this will finish. And you'll see in the debug console we have some JSON here, and this is the output. You can see here in the output speech it says, here's your fact, Earth is the only planet not named after a god. If this was running on an Amazon Echo or Echo Dot, Alexa would actually speak this out. So congratulations, you can now debug locally. This should save you some time with your development. In the notes there's going to be some recommended reading, and so now I'm going to just go over lightly what's going on in the launch.json. So if we go to our launch.json, you can see here we have a program in the configurations. This is what bootstraps our application and runs the test. So it's in our test main.js. One thing I want to call out is there's this env parameter here, which acts as the environment variables that get passed to your program. And so what I like to do here is I like to add in my role, ARN, and then go to my main.js here and cut this and change this to say process.env.arn, role ARN, and then come back over here and paste this into here. So that way, and then I don't check this file in to my repository. So that way, I don't have to worry about this being compromised or hard-coded. If we need to change our role, we just change our role ARN, and then we go into the launch.json and change our ARN. So what's going on in this file? So in this file we're actually bootstrapping things, and so we create a context. The context is defined here in this context.json, which we imported into our project in part 1. You'll notice here the context.json is very sparse. There's not a whole lot of data in here. Check the show notes for a link to what actually explains what you can put in here. There's a bunch of different things that you can simulate. Then you'll see here we are assuming the role, and we're passing it the role ARN that we defined in step 2 and added to our code in step 3. If there's a problem with it in the callback, there will be an error that gets printed out to the debug console. If it's successful, it will load the credentials. These credentials got set in part 3 when we added the user credentials via AWS config. And then lastly, we have var lambda require, and we're basically setting our lambda equal to our index file that's in our source. And then we create an event, and then we pass the event and the context to the handler for that lambda. And so what is this event? This is really cool. You can set up a bunch of different types of events. These events correspond to the various intents that you have set up for your project. So if we go to the input.json, we go to request, and you can see here intent and name, get new fact intent. And if we look at the index.js, this is what ran, our get new fact intent, which in its get fact, which called this. Oops, I need to get back into intent.json or input.json. So you can change this value here, and you can test your various intents. And so you could actually create a bunch of different test inputs for your test, and in your main.js you could loop through those and do your tests and make sure that everything passed. So you can automate your testing, and you can test pretty rigorously all of your states of your application. If we go back to our input.json, you can see in here there is a locale field, and so you can change the language that you're testing. So if your Alexa skill supports English, US English, British English, and German, you could change the locale for your tests and make sure that your strings are coming back in the language and formatted and spelled the way that you expect them to be. And then you can also, up here, you'll see there's this user and this user ID. You can specify a user, and if you're using any DynamoDBs and saving data into the database, if you use this user ID, that information will persist between tests, and so you can test if you have a feature that saves something in the database, you can test and make sure that the data is actually being saved. And if you change the user ID, you'll have a whole new instance of the database that you can save to. I wouldn't say it's a whole new instance of the database, but it goes into a different location that's associated with that user ID. So yes, that concludes the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more tutorials. Thank you very much. This is Justin, signing off.